Hey guys, Damien here with GameSpace.com, and I am here today with the Logitech StreamCam. This is their brand spanking new addition to their lineup of webcams. This guy is, as the box suggests, running at 1080p at 60 frames per second. That is the maximum resolution and frame rate that you will get with this bad boy. So this does kind of fall in their product stack in between the 4K Brio that they have, and this guy here, the C922 Pro. I will be doing a little bit of a side-by-side because I do have those cameras sitting right next to each other, just to give you a little bit of a rundown here of the system that we're running through here. This is a Ryzen-based system that we're connected with, Ryzen 7 3800X. And we are running a GeForce RTX 2080 Founders Edition in the system as well. So no slouch of a system. So we shouldn't have any issues with the camera or stuttering or anything like that, because the system is going to be able to handle it here for itself. So what you're seeing right now is the Logitech Capture application. We've got that going on here. I want to run through some of the things down on the side there. Sorry, got to get my directions right here as I'm looking at myself mirrored. Anyway. So you're going to have the directions, or the different settings here on the side that we're going to run through. Just to let you know, as far as lighting goes in the room here, I do have an Elgato key light that I'm just going to go ahead and show you the setting that I have it on right now. So that's kind of for this room, and with the lighting that I have in here right now, just have normal overhead house lighting, as well as the windows that are open behind me. Obviously, not exactly ideal light control for this room with the windows and whatnot, but it does give you just kind of a starter standpoint, which is really what this guy is kind of made for. This is for people who are getting started in content creation, that don't have big fancy cameras and whatnot, to give them some option to be able to get some good frame rates and good stable footage for their capture. You can set the video up to prioritize either frame rate or exposure. This really comes down to what is it that you value. Do you want the high 60 frames per second, or you want a little bit better true to color form with your capture here? Speaking of that, we have some backlight correction here. So if you have a less than ideal situation with lighting here, you have the ability to flip this on. There's kind of this automatic thing here. I actually like it without the backlight correction on. Maybe it's just me, but I like seeing kind of the richer blacks and deeper colors within there. But if you have a situation where you need a little bit of extra help with just your lighting there, this will be able to help you with that. The audio channels here, you can either capture in dual mono or stereo. So you've got that option there. Image stabilization is really kind of interesting. So if you have your camera or your monitor or your camera set up on a desk that's not exactly the most stable, as you're kind of feverishly clicking keys here, we've got a little bit of extra help with that. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on now. It does zoom in a bit. I'm going to let the camera catch up here a second. Okay, so it does zoom the camera in for a bit here, but even though you've got a little bit of shake on the camera, the focus is still on my face and not necessarily as shaky there. So we're going to switch back here and wait for the camera to catch up to me. Go into auto framing here. This is kind of interesting, because the camera, if I'm not mistaken, will follow my face. So if you do something like this, it will follow you. It's really kind of trippy to play around with that. I'm not entirely sure what the use case would be, unless you're kind of in a situation where you're getting up and walking around. I know I was talking with some of my other team members about this, but I guess if you're actively all over the place and you want people to be able to follow you, great. There's auto framing. To me, this is one of those settings that kind of makes me feel like the first time I picked up a video camera and I'm playing with the zoom in and zoom out features on the thing. But hey, everybody has their different style with things. I just turned it off, and it's really cool that it just automatically zoomed back out there. Kind of a neat feature there. We do have autofocus on this too. So again, if you're kind of playing with things in front of the camera and you want it to prioritize, what you have in front of the camera, I think that does it prioritize face? It looks like it might just prioritize face in that. So may just be something that's the way that they built it. So that's just kind of what it does. Auto white balance, as you see here, I do have some settings over here that are set up to what's kind of ideal for this room for me, at least the way that I see it. We do have the ability to turn that on. You see, the audio white balance isn't very much off of where I have it right now. There are also individual image settings here, so if you want to play around with color, contrast, sharpness, brightness, etc., you can do that. Anti-flicker, whether you're 60 hertz, 50 hertz, got that going on. Chroma key, ooh, that's trippy weird. Chroma key, if you got a green screen or blue screen, I guess, and you want to cut that background out, you've got the option to do that. That's something that's in the software again for the other cameras. And then the option, of course, to flip your source depending on how you want to mount this thing, because there are incredible mounting options with this goofy thing. I'm going to pull this in. This tripod did not come with this camera. It actually came with the C922 Pro webcam, but the extra mounting here fits. So if I wanted to mount the stream cam onto a tripod, I've got the option to be able to do that. That was one thing that Logitech was really upfront about, was that they wanted to make sure that content creators had options for how they use cameras. They saw people taking the 922 and like duct taping it to the side of things. There is a portrait mode with this camera, so if you turn it 90 degrees, you will actually be able to run the camera in portrait mode. So that's kind of what you have the option with the extra mount. The camera itself does have a monitor top mount that you can do the same thing with, reorient it. So if you're doing something like making TikTok videos or Facebook videos, you've got the option to do portrait mode with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to the 922, speaking of, just to run through some of the same things so you can see that stuff side by side. So we're just going to click over here. I did have that set up. You will see that the image tracking is not as smooth. The motion. I can definitely tell that there's a blur on the motion for the capture. Remember, this camera is running only at 30 frames per second, so you're getting half the frame rate with this camera. It does run at 720p at 60 frames per second. So if you're not looking to do full screen setup and you just kind of want that like picture-in-picture thing, the 922 may be able to suffice for your use case. This camera doesn't have as many of the options built in with it as the StreamCam does, but you do have things like autofocus, the zoom, auto white balance, etc. Same image settings, key, chroma key, and so on and so forth. So anyway, I'm going to have the full write-up for my thoughts on this thing. Initial thoughts on this camera, I'm going to go ahead and switch back. So initial thoughts on this camera. It is really neat to be able to see Logitech kind of bump up their game in the 1080p space when it comes to the frame rates for their cameras. That was one thing that with the 922 that was kind of a little bit of a bummer, was that even though you could do 720p at 60 frames per second, the 1080 definitely wasn't there. The other thing the thing that's kind of a bit of a bummer for me, and I realize this thing was probably in development as this partnership was being forged, but now that Logitech and Blue Design are in-house together, it would have been really neat to have seen some of the Blue Voice technology that Logitech started integrating into some of their other devices. It would have been really neat to be able to see that in there. Blue is has a very, very fantastic pedigree of incredible sound. You know them from the Yeti, but if you've been in the pro audio space at all, their capsule microphones are just, they're top notch. We want to thank Logitech for sending us this camera to be able to review. And so we want you to stick around, though, here at GameSpace.com for all of your reviews and video game news, as well as some neat technology. Again, my name is Damien, and I'll see you in the next one.